Hello, sixth graders. Today we're going to be analyzing data through bar graphs. Bar graphs are something you've probably been looking at ever since you were probably in kindergarten or first grade, but they get a little more complex the older you get. So today we're going to be looking at some different bar graphs. Here's a little review of a bar graph. Here's your y-axis. Number of supplies is right here. Down at the bottom, types of school supplies. So pencils is one category. You're going to need 8 pencils. A scale, you'll need 3 scales. 2 pens, a sharpener. You need 5 of them. That's pretty crazy. That's a lot of sharpeners. Erasers, looks like these kids make a lot of mistakes. You're going to need 4 of them. Favorite type of movie? All right, here's how many people. These are their votes. In between, so it's counting by ones, and here's the different types of movies. I'd probably be in the comedy range, so my scale would probably be, if my vote was on here, maybe this would be a 5. Romance seems like the highest. They must have asked a lot of moms during the Hallmark Christmas Thanksgiving season to get their romance level high. Mrs. Green loves comedy romances. I don't know, not my fan of those kind of movies. Amount of vegetables sold at Frank's farm stand. Pounds sold. Now this is pretty interesting. So there's 3 bar graphs per vegetable. Well, what does the blue mean? Let's take a look over here. Day 1. Day 2 is red. Day 3 is green. So if you're taking a look here, it kind of looks like the green day overall seems to be the highest one. So the 3rd day seems to be the day that they sold the most. Let's see if any other results. It looks like carrots were sold more on the 1st day compared to romaine lettuce. Corn seemed to be the #1 seller of all these. Interesting. So that's how you analyze these graphs. We're going to make a little scale here. We're going to make a little graph. And let's see here. So it looks like we've got a test here, and there's 6 different weeks of the test. So we have our plain grid here, and we have a class average. So I'm going to probably have weeks down here at the bottom. And we're going to move this up here, and this will be my average will be up here. That's right. That. This little part right here will be at the 0 weeks. We'll have these two, that bar right here be week 1. This will be week 2. This will be week 3. This will be week 4. This is 5, and this is week 6 in there. Okay? And so we'll fill that out. And we'll have these go up by, taking a look here with how many we have, we'll probably have to go by, I don't know, probably by 5s. I don't know if 5s will get us there. We might have to go by 10s. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Yeah, we had to go by that. 110, 120. Okay. So let's say week 1. Looks like week 1 was at 68, so it's going to be right under the 70. So put a little line right there. We'll fill this bar in right here. Week 2 is at 66, so it's a little less than that 68. We'll change the colors here so we don't get mixed up. A little less. Fill that in. Week 3, we'll go back to red, is at 79, so it's really close to that 80 mark. Okay. Week 4, we're at 89. So we are right up there by that 90. So week 4. Now I could fill these in and make them look extra pretty, but I'm not doing that right now. Week 5 is at 91. So right above that 90 mark. And then week 6 is at 88. So it looks like it drops a little bit again. Okay. So we're going to answer some questions after looking at this graph and see how we do here. So I'm taking a look at this graph here. Looks like the kids did pretty well in week 1. Looks like they dropped a little bit in week 2. They got better in week 3, week 4, and week 5. Then they dropped again at 6. So they went up 1 week, 2, 3 weeks they went up, and they dropped 2 weeks. They went up 3 weeks. The highest average score occurred in what week? So let's go back here. Looks like right here, that's the highest bar. That would be week 5 is our highest score. Where's the lowest average score? Let's take a look back. The lowest score looks like it's right here in week 2. What is that? 66, week 2. How many times did scores improve from one week to the next? So how many times did scores go up? Well, they didn't go up here, they went down. So went up here once, went up here twice, went up here 3 times. So from week 2 to 3 it went up, from week 3 to 4 it went up, and week 4 to 5 it went up. So it went up 3 times. How many times did scores decline from one week to the next? So it means how many times did they go down? Went down from week 1 to 2, and it went down from week 5 to 6, so it went down twice. The greatest 1 week improvement occurred between what week and what week? This looks like the biggest jump right here, from week 2 to 3. Looks like it went up 13 points. Let's just take a look from week 3 to 4, went only 10. So this is your biggest jump right there. So that went up from week 2 to 3. That's why it's kind of nice to use a bar graph. It really helped us look at this stuff. I know we could have looked at this data, but sometimes if you're working with large scale things, sometimes when we're looking at like MCA scores or NWA scores as teachers, it's really nice to kind of look at these graphs because that really helps us look at data much more closely. And companies use this kind of information as well when they're buying products or selling products as well. Here's what today's big lesson. You're going to name a possible set of scores for Miss Pinzar's 15 students that would result in the class average given in week 2. So we have 15 students. Now, I've kind of touched a little bit on how to find the mean before, but let's see what week that was again. Week 2. So we have an average of 66 in week 2. So that's the same as our mean, right? Our mean equals 66. We have 15 kids. So every single student's not going to get 66 because that wouldn't be possible. So how would we find that big number to get to the mean? Well, we'd have a big number after adding up all those scores, and we would divide it by 15 to get to 66. So how do we work backwards? We would just simply multiply 15 times 66. And I'm going to use a calculator today, and I'm going to show you why. We're going to go 15 times 66, and we get 990 for a number. Now I have to come up with 15 scores now that equal that. So we're going to use this calculator, and let's subtract. So we're going to keep as close to 66 as possible. So we're going to subtract, we'll subtract 60. Okay, we'll subtract 60, so a kid got one score of 60 here. Now we'll subtract another. Let's go with 75 this time. We're going to subtract a 60. Let's say some kids did really well. Let's give a couple 90s on here. Subtract a 90. We're going to subtract another 90. Let's subtract a couple 85s. We still have some scores to go, so we'll keep on subtracting. Let's subtract a couple 72s. Looks like we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scores. Let's subtract some 68s. 68, 68. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 scores left. Let's subtract. Ooh, now we're getting kind of some low scores. 56. Uh-oh, we're gonna have some low scores, but you kind of see how we're doing this. Minus another 56. And then we're going to have minus a 25. This student really didn't study for these two students, and then we have a 28. So a possible set of scores for these 15 students will result like this. So for example, so what we'd have to do is you have to start with those 15 students like we did, and you'd have to multiply it by that average number to get the total number. Because remember, when you're finding the mean of something, you got to get what all the test scores are added up. So when you add up all these scores, it equals 990. You would take that 990, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like. If you take that 990, because all these scores added up would be 990, and then if you divide it by 15, you'll get 66. So all these numbers added up equals this. We're going to divide it by 15, which equals that. That's how we'd have a mean. But most likely a kid's not going to get a 25% score. So we'd have to kind of adjust these numbers to make them more realistic. But here's an idea of how you would get a set of numbers that would equal, to help you find your set of numbers to equal that mean. Now let's do some math here. See how we're doing with time. I'm going to do two problems here. We have 389 times 17. 9 times 7 is 63. 8 times 7 is 56, plus 6 is 56 plus 6 is 62. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 6 is 27. A place value holder here. Oops, put a 0 here. Got 9. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 3 is 3. Go ahead and add them up. We have 3. We have an 11. We have a 16. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6. Your answer is 6,613. I'll stop there instead of doing those other multiplication problems because explaining the graphs took a little bit longer. But long story short, you're going to be spending some time today working on those bar graphs. Hopefully this helps a little bit. And good luck, kids.